Title: The Ballad of the Reaper. Silence was a heavy cloak covering the village of Villa Umbría. A thick, almost palpable silence, broken only by the whisper of the wind that snaked between the stone houses, licking the windows with invisible fingers. It was a moonless night, the stars hidden behind a veil of leaden clouds, foreshadowing a storm that never quite broke. Anna, sitting by the window of her old house, felt a strange unease, a dark premonition that chilled her bones. Villa Umbría had always been a quiet place, isolated from the world by rugged mountains and winding roads. Its inhabitants, simple people rooted in their customs, lived at the slow rhythm of nature, oblivious to the bustle of big cities. But that night, the usual calm had turned into an oppressive tension, as if the very air was charged with an invisible danger. Suddenly, the silence broke. A sad, melancholic melody began to float in the air, carried by the wind. It was not cheerful music, not even comforting. It was a melody that spoke of loneliness, of loss, of an inevitable end. It was the song of death. Anna felt a shiver run down her spine. The melody, though distant, resonated deep within her being, awakening an ancestral fear, a fear of the unknown that had remained dormant for years. She tried to ignore it, to convince herself that it was just her imagination, a trick of the wind playing with the eaves of the houses. But the melody persisted, relentless, growing stronger and stronger, closer and closer. She went out into the street, drawn by the macabre melody like a moth to a flame. The streets were empty, the windows closed. Only the wind howled, carrying with it the song of death. Anna noticed that she was not the only one awake. In the distance, she saw shadows moving between the houses, hunched figures gliding silently, searching for the source of the melody. The music led her to the town square, an open space dominated by an old stone church. There, in the center of the square, stood a spectral figure, wrapped in a dark robe that billowed in the wind. It was death, personified in a bony specter, with a shining scythe in its hand and a face hidden behind a hood. Death was singing. Its voice, a cavernous echo, resonated in the square, filling the air with words that chilled the blood. Your time has come. The melody intensified, engulfing Anna in a whirlwind of mournful notes. She felt the ground tremble beneath her feet, the air becoming dense, unbreathable. Other neighbors, drawn by the song, began to arrive at the square, emerging from their houses like automatons, with empty eyes and lost looks. Death watched them, impassive, as it continued its funereal song. One by one, the inhabitants of Villa Umbría collapsed to the ground, inert, their faces contorted with terror. Anna tried to flee, but her legs did not respond. She was paralyzed by fear, unable to take her eyes off the specter of death. The melody enveloped her, suffocated her, penetrating her mind, tearing at her soul. Then, death turned towards her. Under the hood, Anna glimpsed a skeletal face, with empty sockets that burned with an infernal fire. Death raised its scythe, and the melody reached its climax. Your time has come. Anna closed her eyes, expecting the fatal blow. But the blow never came. Instead, she felt a gentle breeze caress her face, and the melody began to fade. She opened her eyes cautiously. Death had disappeared. The square was empty, covered with inert bodies. Silence, thicker than ever, reigned again in Villa Umbría. Anna was the only one left standing. She looked around, trying to understand what had happened. Had it been a dream? A nightmare? Or reality? Suddenly, she felt a sharp pain in her chest. She put her hand to her heart and noticed something strange. A cold, metallic object protruded from her chest. It was the scythe of death, stuck in her heart. With a last breath of air, Anna understood the truth. Death had not disappeared. It had simply fulfilled its mission. She was the last inhabitant of Villa Umbría, and her time, finally, had come. She fell to the ground, next to the others, while the melody of death faded into the silence of the night. But before exhaling her last breath, she heard a voice whisper in her ear, "Fear not, Anna. Now you are one of us." And with those words, Anna joined the spectral choir of Villa Umbría, condemned to wander the square forever, waiting for the arrival of the next victim of the Ballad of the Reaper. The wind howled, the night was dark, and death, once again, had claimed its tribute in the forgotten village. The melody, though silenced, persisted in the air, waiting for the moment to awaken and announce the end of another unfortunate soul. Villa Umbría, now a ghost town, would remain an eternal reminder of the implacable power of death and the fragility of life.